In the El Chapo trial now, witnesses have testified for weeks that Joaquin El Chapo Guzman killed his rivals. But now jurors have heard some of the gruesome details about some of those deaths. The former Mexican Army Special Forces soldier worked as El Chapo's bodyguard from 2004 to 2007. And he testified that he lived with El Chapo in the mountains and followed him at all hours. There, he says he witnessed El Chapo brutally murder 3 men. 2 of the men were working for a rival gang, and he beat and tortured them, shot them, and set them on fire. The 3rd man was buried alive after being so severely burned that his clothes melted onto his skin. The jury has already seen 2 videos of El Chapo interrogating and torturing victims, including his own cousin, who he killed for betraying him. So joining us now is attorney Paul Batista. So, Paul, a lot of times you've been here and we've been sort of snickering through some of the testimony because it's, been pretty interesting. But things just got real with this bodyguard.
They did. And, for the first 6 or 7 weeks of this trial, it kind of began as I don't want to call it a circus, but the government's evidence was through informants from 20 years ago, people who were inherently unreliable. There were absurd nicknames. But yesterday, the rubber hit the road in terms of we now have reason to believe that El Chapo, in fact, is a homicidal maniac.
Right.
However, I'm a lawyer. You can read this indictment. He's not charged with murdering anyone.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Then why present this testimony?
I suppose there's a legal rationale that it somehow supports the idea that he's prepared to engage in illegal activity, to do what he is really accused of importing heroin and other drugs into the United States. But they save their closing stuff, their worst stuff, for the end. And it hangs in the juror's mind, and the trial is almost over from the prosecution's standpoint, so the jury forgets this fact that they fell asleep during the prosecution case, that one juror said, if the underwear don't fit, you must acquit.
Oh, gosh.
Now the jury is remembering that El Chapo had allegedly people burned alive.
Right, the brutality.
But that really isn't the indictment. And, it raises fascinating issues.
Speaking of that, so we have heard a lot about El Chapo. We heard about his escape. We heard about his mistress, probably more than one mistress. We heard about him living in the mountains. Now we're hearing about, just how murderous and sort of cold-hearted he can be. What's the most important stuff, though, that we've heard so far that, reinforces what the indictment asserts?
Really, I'll be honest with you, very little. First of all, he's almost illiterate. In fact, there was an odd testimony yesterday where the handwriting expert looking at El Chapo's handwriting turns out to be the great-grandson of a man who did handwriting analysis in the Lindbergh case. And the defense lawyers wisely asked this witness yesterday, isn't it a fact that the FBI itself has said that handwriting analysis is junk science? It's a good question.
How'd the expert take that?
I wasn't there.
Right.
I have to assume he likes his great-grandfather.
So you're not hearing much that would prove to you what the indictment is that he's the head of the Sinaloa cartel.
I am not hearing much, and I'm also constantly hearing that
we've had weeks of testimony.
Zambada is the guy who is really the head.
Right.
And that El Chapo may have gone along for the ride, but that does not make him, in my view, the head of the cartel. My view doesn't matter.
Right.
The jury matters. What to me is fascinating, government will rest very early next week. Its case is over. What does El Chapo do?
Will he testify?
Will he testify? I think so.
No way.
I think he will, given, Sean Penn wanted to do a movie on him. Or Chapo wanted to write his own memoirs.
You think his ego is going to get the better of him and he's going to defy good advice?
I think he's going to defy good advice. I think he wants to memorialize his story forever. And my gut tells me he will. My brain tells me, just sit there and be quiet.
No, don't do that. We want to know exactly what your gut and brain is saying. Thank you very much, Paul Batista.
Thank you, dear.